So what I'm going to show you today is I've got two sandboxes and I'm going to take a field from one and deploy it in the other. So this is my inbound one. So this is the one I'm not changing. So effectively my production, or depends how complicated your release schedule is. And what I've done is I've created this lovely field called age, and it calculates somebody's age based on their date of birth. So I've added it to my screen here. And if I look on here, I know it's not here already. Obviously, I'd look in my object and field settings to make sure. And so what I'm going to do is from the setup, I'm going to look for change sets. And I want outbound because I'm going out from the database that has the changes and into the new one. So I'm going to create myself a new change set and call it age field because I've got something simple. I would recommend using the description to say what's in there if you depends how complicated your release schedule is, release process. And I will save that one. And then I'm going to add. And what I want is it's a custom field I've just created. So you can filter by whatever the components are that you're going to be included. Custom field. And then luckily it's A, so it's at the beginning, and I've got age. And I'm going to add that to my change set. And I'm going to look at my dependencies. It shows a little bit about your dependencies, not 100% guaranteed. But as you can see, it's dependent on the deceased tick box, which is part of MPSP, so I don't need to take that one over. And date of death field, which I have as custom field, but I know that's already there, so I won't bother taking those over, but I could if they didn't exist as well. And because my formula on my age field uses those in order to make the calculation. Not foolproof, but it does quite often pick up what you need. And I'm going to add the profiles that should see this field. The other option is once I've got it over there, I'll have to go and update them all, or update the field level security to show it. So I'm going to make sure everybody can see it who should. I have lots of these standard things in my org and I don't know how to get rid of them. I don't think you can you? It's a bit of clutter. Don't like it. So I shall add those profiles to my change set. So I'll check what I've got in here. I've got my field, I've got my profiles, and then I will go to upload. But as you can see, I don't have an organization at the moment. So before I can upload, I have to say from my inbound that I have permission. So this is usually just the first time you do it from that particular org. But if you're quite often refreshing orgs, you need to do it most times. So in my deployment settings, I want to go into my demo out. So I'm going to edit that one. And I'm going to allow inbound changes from that one. And save. And let it think. Save in that, yeah. And just wait. So it's handy if you knit or something, knit a row while you're waiting. Don't think there's anything hiding under my controls. Oh, yeah, I did save. I'll just refresh here to see if it's there yet. And there we go. So that's the org I want to upload my changes into. And I'll upload it. So it will email me when it's complete. I haven't shared the screen on my email, but I will go and check it. And hopefully I'm right. I haven't shared my email screen, have I? And what I'm going to do is get ready to look for my inbound. So I'll go back to change sets on my inbound org now. I made them different colors so that when I'm in them, I can tell straight away they're different ones using my themes. And I'm going to check my inbound change sets and see if it's there yet. Not yet. So talk about the weather.
Can I
Really
actually
miserable here. I don't know about anywhere else.
can I ask something about that while we're waiting?
Sure, yep.
So this is general, it doesn't really matter, I don't think, which tool you use for deployment, but the whole thing around permissions, about the profiles, I sort of got used to deploying everything, especially if we're talking about fields and objects, deploying everything and then going and doing the permissions manually on the profiles. What you're showing here is that you are bringing the profile in together with your change. Does that mean that that automatically opens up all the security around those new fields?
It should do, but yes, like anything, security is one. I know some of the tools don't like taking the security across, and you do still have to replicate manually. I once used gear set. I can't remember if that's one of the ones that doesn't like it. I don't know if anybody knows that better.
Yeah, theoretically, it should. I don't know about gear set, but with ClickDeploy it'll work. So effectively, what it will take is what you tell it to take. So a bit like in Debbie's instance, if Debbie is given full, say, edit access on that field she created to every one of those profiles, but she actually has only taken over 3 profiles. When you actually then look in the, let's say in this instance, the demo in org, that field will only have those permissions for the 3 that she's brought over. Even if in the original, in the source org, she's got every single one checked. In the target org, she'll only have those 3 updated. And that's how it works in terms of the field level security. It kind of matches the 2 together.
And I wonder what that would mean down the line. We talked briefly about moving from profiles to permission sets. I wonder what that would mean for that.
You deploy the permission set. You deploy the permission set, and it's exactly the same process. So Mark's just said to basically point out when you're deploying the profile, it only updates the profile based on the changes made to it. So let's say Debbie's got 5 of the fields that she's added field level security to for that profile in her source org. When she deploys the profile, that all she's deploying is the one related to this age field. And Mark's just said GearSet does allow you to deploy security updates, but it just looks different to what it does in change sets. So and again, kind of the same concept with almost basically exactly the same concept with a permission set. If Debbie had got a permission set that just said, I don't know, edit access on contact fields, but she only deployed the age field and she got another 4 sat in the source org, she's included the change set, it will only update the change set and that field. It won't update anything else. Where's your change set, Debbie?
Yep. the one that's just thinking about it. I haven't had
just
an email
thinking
yet.
about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? This is I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but around the time of releases, sandboxers go into a total go slow. And I don't know whether Salesforce, and I don't remember this historically being a thing. I think it's more over the past year, maybe. Mark's just said it's a live demo syndrome, but no, I think it's more it's a sandbox thing. And I think they're sealing
Hyperforce.
I think that,
Yeah.
well, maybe, but I think also it was before that though, and I think it's because they reduce resources on them to help with everything that's happening over the release period. Could be wrong, but that's what it looks like.
No, you're right. It is. That's the thing as well, isn't it? Sandbox to sandbox is going to be really bottom of the pile, so it's queued somewhere waiting to begin. I could have done a couple of rows of knitting by now, couldn't I?
No.
Do you want to move to the other demo then, and then we can come back to this?
That's what I wondered. I think I'm going to get Debbie. Do one more refresh.
Yeah, I haven't had the email yet.
Not had the email yet. Okay, right.
So I'll pause there.
Yeah, okay. So Debbie's going to
And
pause
pick it up
there.
afterwards. That's part one.
That's part one.
Outbound
Okay.
change sets, part one.
So, right. So I'm going to share my screen. It's very similar. I'm going to basically deploy, I'm in different orgs, but I'm going to do exactly the same as Debbie. So I've got an age field, and I've put this, these are orgs that I already had set up. So I've put this into my indicators org. And I haven't got the nice little colourful tag things, which is just ridiculous, right? Because I should have, and I know this. But anyway, so this is my source. I've got this in here. And then I've got in my Udemy Dev from where I've been doing my coding course. I do not have that field in here. Okay. So this is what's called ClickDeploy. It's now Copado Essentials. And Copado Essentials you can sign up for with your Salesforce account. I think you'll find that you can only sign up for one per organization. So looking at people like Yvonne and Polly here, like if you both try, and what you may find out is you'll add a load of stuff into a deployment, then whereas you can't deploy it because without a paid license, they'll only let you have one per org. So that can be a challenge. But anyway, for small nonprofits, generally not a problem. And in here, you have, if we tackle these orgs pieces first, we have different orgs. Now, the nice thing about ClickDeploy is you don't actually even have to deploy within orgs that all belong to the same production instance. You can actually deploy between completely separate orgs. Now, the only thing I'll say there is that sounds great until you have a load of fields that are all reliant on each other and all of that. But it is possible, is what I'm saying here. So if you did have something brand new, you could absolutely do that. And in here, you would add a new organization. So if you needed to add your new Salesforce org, you've got your Salesforce org. There's also a load of things about GitHub and all of that. I'm not going to go into that, but Salesforce org, give it a name. And then is it a sandbox or is it a production/developer org? And hit authorize, and then you'll do a OAuth authorization and you'll set it up. I've already got mine set up in here. And that is set up. So I've got my indicators and I've got my Udemy Dev. Now, in terms of deployments, I believe the limit is 10 validations per month. And it literally runs on a calendar month from what I've been told. I've never counted them, but I believe that is correct. So there are some people I know about the calendar cutoff because they've told me they normally do their deployments at the end of the month because actually they're not that far off then. If they did run out, the first is only just around the corner, right? Helpful. So we would do a new deployment. And in here, a bit like Debbie's, I'm just gonna call it age. I also like to put the name of the orgs in there. It just makes me feel better. And I select my source org, which in Debbie's example was, demo out, I think. And then my target org, which is going to be my Udemy Dev. And I add that in. Now, then it's quite similar, really, to Change Sets. And if you've used Change Sets, the step to ClickDeploy is not far. So for somebody like Debbie, this should be like, oh, yeah, totally get it. So I'm going to add my components. Now we've got lots of different lists, but we can search. So, okay, so we know it's going to be a field. Yeah. We're going to pick up a field. And we're going to look in here and we're going to go, okay, so what we got now, what ClickDeploy does quite nicely is it gives me an idea of what the differences are between the orgs. So it's also quite nice if you've got that thing of, oh, did I actually deploy that? Because I can see that way up front. So I can already go, oh no, age is going to be new in the target org, as is date of death, as is deceased. And the reason deceased is new, just to be really clear here, is I don't have MPSP installed. So it's not that I'm being, if I had MPSP in there, it would already be there, but I don't. So I added these in and just modified Debbie's formula slightly. Other thing to note, because a lot of us do use MPSP, might want your managed package in here. So if you suddenly think, oh my God, I'm missing something, that's why. Give that a tick, you'll get a load more fields. Can also do things like I can search for my object. So maybe if there were loads of fields and I only wanted to find my age field, maybe I know they're on the contact. I can search for those. Maybe you want to filter further and I want to say, well, I'm only looking for, I don't know, a validation rule. I'm only searching for a custom field, so on. There's quite a lot in there. The other thing I'm going to add in, just like Debbie, is I'm going to add in a profile. And profiles are a funny one in ClickDeploy. They're quite often this brown sort of says it doesn't know. And what I'm actually going to go with is I'm just going to add in every single profile. You know, I've given access if I needed to. I'm just going to add them all in. Everything's going to be controlled based on the changes of that particular fields that I'm putting in. So that's what I'm going to get. Other things to note is there are some absolute similarities in ClickDeploy based like change sets. So can't deploy certain standard fields, can't do that in change sets either. So I have found that if I'm ever struggling in ClickDeploy because I can't find something, looking at documentation and Googling, can you deploy X with change sets in Salesforce, will often give me the answer I need because it's often very, very similar. You know, it's just, sorry, you can't deploy that particular field for some reason. You can also look at the deployment options. I'm not going to change any of these, but there are various options you can change them that can sometimes be helpful. And particularly if you want to send notifications to somebody that you've done something, I'm not going to worry about these. Everything in here is pretty standard. And then what I can do, and I would normally do if I was doing this to see what happened, and actually I'm going to purposely take out date of death and deceased. So I'm going to hit validate. And what it's going to do is, a bit like we're going to see with Debbie's change set, it's going to run as if it's going to do that deployment, right? And it's going to look and it's going to say, is there any issues? Now, you may have noticed when I first started this, I said you get 10 validations. So what you kind of want to figure out here is if I was only deploying one field, and I know that field had no relationship to anything else because it was just a field, it was just a field that I typed some data in, would I hit validation? Probably not. All I would hit is deploy because I'd be like, do you know what? If it's going to fail, it's going to fail anyway, and it's fine. But instead on this one, I've hit validate because I actually want to see. And in here it says, well, contact age, that's the field I'm trying to put over. Field deceased does not exist. Check spelling. So it's already said, hold on a minute, there's something missing. The other thing is, I go back to that age field. Do you remember Debbie showing you what fields were related, right? I could have done that in here as well. I just didn't because I'm lazy and I just didn't bother. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add those fields in. You see, as I click those, it's brought them back in. I would hit validate, but I don't really want to use up all my validations. So I'm just going to hit deploy. And off it goes. Now, do you remember Debbie? She was off doing a knitting. Well, this is going to be quicker because I also don't have to go and pull it through. So what Debbie's got to do is she's got to wait for it to arrive, and then Debbie's got to pull it in. She's got to validate it. She's got to deploy it. If she misses something, she's got to do it again. She's got to push it through again. Then she's got to go back. Real pain. As you saw, I missed something and I went, ooh, click, 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 off we go. And there we go, it succeeded. So we can, in here, if we go into my Udemy Dev, now we're gonna have a problem because I haven't put on the page layout. So it's not gonna be here. I could have deployed a page layout, just decided not to. But that can be nice. You know, I know of an awful lot of orgs, and I'm looking at all you people here because you'll have all done it, where you go and just change your page layout in production, right? You'll do it. Not gonna, can't lie. So if I deployed the page layout, what would have happened? You got the one in my source org. And if you've done a load of work on that, you might be upset about it. So instead, I'm not going to deploy the page layout. I'm just going to bring my field in, hit save. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to use this Clear Cache app, which we all found out about in the indicator session last time. And I've got my field in here. Now, I don't think I've even got my date of birth in. Oh, I have. Hold on. Hold up. Let's change the year. Let's pick a date. There we go. Boom. So it's all deployed. It's all done. And I actually have a nice little record in Copado. I think it holds up to 50. So it's not forever, but it's actually there. I know what's in there and it's over.
I think it holds less. When I do now deployments, it keeps telling me I'm going to delete the oldest one. So yeah, I think it's about 16 or something. I don't know.
Oh, it may have dropped down.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there you go. It's all in. If I put comments on the field, if I'd put a nice description on it, anything like that, it'd all be there. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to pass back to Debbie and really hope that Debbie has a change set in her demo in.
Yep, I had my email 4 minutes ago. And here it is. And what I'm going to do first is validate it. Now, I don't have anything complicated like Apex code that needs tests and all that stuff. So mine's nice and simple, changing a field. But you can run tests if necessary to make sure your code's not going to break things. Again, I'm just a solo admin, so I don't do all that dev Apexy stuff. So
And to add to that note, there's options for that in ClickDeploy as well. So you can also tell it what you want it to run.
No, that actually validated really quickly. It can quite often validate quite slowly, but that's saying it succeeded. So I will deploy it. Hopefully it's because it's a simple change as well. It validated quickly. There you go. So to make up for being slow on transferring over, it's deployed it quite quickly. And I can, mine's a dynamic form. So I think I can stick it on this way, can't I? If I remember, possibly not. Let's stick it on the old way. Pop it on my screen so we can see. There we go. So that. Refresh. I did save it, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. It's the refresh that doesn't always work quickly.
I think that's your cache thing you're talking about, wasn't it, Emma?
Yeah, it's either cached or because it's a dynamic page layout, that might be why it's not showed up. If
Could
it's
be. Yeah. So I should have stuck with the dynamic page, shouldn't I? And just added it on that way.
But let's just say it's definitely there, right? We've seen the field. We've seen it in setup. We know it arrived.
Yeah, because I just stuck it on the page layout. So there you go. Field. There we go. Pop it on. And just make sure I can see it and it's behaving itself. and it's working. So yeah, I do find actually when I've validated and deployed things, they've not been as quick as that was. So that was a pleasant surprise. And whether it's the type of changes, I don't know, for speed. But there we go. That's change sets.
Amazing. So anybody got any questions or comments?
Just to say that I've been using ClickDeploy, or what's its new name, Copado Essentials, for a while, and I definitely prefer it to Change Sets. Although Change Sets have improved from when I used them a long time ago. And also to say that you said that it's maximum 10 free validations. I think that when it deploys, it validates, and that counts as well.
Yes,
I'm not sure if
it does. No, it does. Yeah, it does. So I think it does, which is why, yes, good to pull that out. It's saying yes. So it's 10 validations and or deployments. So, which is why if I was literally deploying a field that was literally, I don't know, age, but it wasn't calculated and there were no dependencies and nothing, I would just deploy it. And like to Nitsan's point, it won't deploy anyway. It'll error. I'd have still got the same error. Obviously the validation is good if you're doing a whole wealth of changes, but I've kind of said to quite a few nonprofits is, you know, it's 10 per month, Kim, and it's calendar, and it appears to be calendar month, what somebody told me anyway, because I've always wondered what that month was. I was like, does it like roll them off and roll them on? But somebody said to me, don't know how true this is, but somebody who I know in the ecosystem who's pretty savvy said it's month by month. So she always does the deployments at the end of the month. And I think it's also so that if she has a problem and she's ended up doing too many, she can kind of go, oh, it's the first in a few days, I'll try again then. But you know, if you're only looking after one org, really I would think that 10 is sufficient, particularly if you're only going to do, say, a monthly release. You should have enough in there just to test it. I would also say that although the cost of it is not low, if you need it ongoing, I think it's about $900 a year for a license. As much as that sounds, if you are doing, say, bi-weekly releases or weekly releases, and you know, you kind of doing that level of stuff, if you were to do it all by change sets, that return on investment piece is probably pretty quite high, right?
How would you sort of pitch it if you need to get a budget for it? Because I mean, I know for sure how much easier it is to use it rather than change
I'd
set.
work out how long it takes you and how to, like, building a change set. If you're, you know, Debbie made it look easy because she's adding one field, she's looking for a dependency. She probably already knew what the dependencies were because she wrote the formula. So she probably had already thought, hold on a minute, I know that I'm going to need deceased. I know I'm going to need this field. I know I'm going to need my profile. But actually, if you've missed stuff, so say Debbie hadn't done that and she deployed it, and then she said, oh no, I've missed that field. Hold on, right. I now need to make another change set. So I need to clone it. I need to add it. I need to push it back through. Then I need to pull it through. You kind of think the time goes up and up and up and up. So I think if you're doing really regular deployments, and also that piece of being able to evaluate between the two orgs, what's changed, being able to look at what needs deploying, all that sort of thing, I think that's where you're starting to look at, well, what's 900? Sure, it's $900. So if we're saying that that's $900, that's £715 per year. That is divided by 12. I'm clearly using a calculator. That's just under £60 a month. So if you kind of work out how much time does that take, you know, and also accuracy. I think that's the other thing, accuracy of bringing it in. And like Mark says, actually, GearSet, I think, and I didn't know this, Mark was saying that GearSet do something similar. Now, if that's the case, and you've got maybe another free tool, hey, who needs to pay for one? just say that. It's recorded, but it's just something to think about. And yeah, absolutely think ClickDeploy is brilliant. But also Change Sets have, I've used Change Sets, and I've also done a bit of both. So I've done use ClickDeploy for the more complicated deployments, use Change Sets for something like we did today, right? That's a simple deployment. And that way you're only really using your 10 free validations when you're doing something big. If I'm doing you just need one field that maybe got missed in a deployment because it was a late entry or something. Okay, I'll just do that separately. Or, we did a deployment through ClickDeploy, but we missed the page layout, or we missed the lightning page. Well, I'll just do that separately as a change set instead of using up one of my deployments. Beats doing it manually.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, it doesn't take away the need to write everything that you're changing so that you don't forget stuff.
No, I'd agree with that. Okay, so everybody, it's now quiz time.